Thanks so much for sharing your garden with us. And we're going to be talking about some really cool native Texas trees right now. I'm really excited because there are a lot of new introductions that we're going to be talking about here. Some cool introduced species from Mexico and Texas natives. And we're joined by Crystal Murray from Far South Nursery. Great to have you back on Central Texas Gardener.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, you have brought a real interesting assortment of plants that have color, leaf color, different forms in terms of the foliage. And we're going to start with a plant family that I am really psyched about, which are the Bauhinias. These are called orchid trees.
Right.
And lots of us garden with the Texas orchid tree, the Anacacho orchid. But you've brought two varieties from Mexico that I'm dying to learn more about. One is this beautiful little plant in front of us here with the white flowers blooming now,
Right.
which is unusual for a Bauhinia, at least in my book. Tell me a little bit about the Mexican Bauhinia.
So the Mexican Bauhinia is one that grows only to be about 8 feet tall, so
Okay.
it's really considered more of a shrub.
Sure.
And you're going to probably want to plant it in more of a protected space. It is only cold hardy down to about 20 degrees.
Okay.
So it can in some years get totally knocked down to the ground, but
Right.
usually reemerges from the roots.
Yeah, I found the same to be true with the Anacacho orchid when they're newly planted.
Right.
That they can freeze to the ground, but then that happened to one that I planted, and then it grew 8 feet the next year. So,
Yeah, they're great. They're resilient for sure.
yeah, and so like its Texas cousin, I'm assuming this one likes really well-drained soil.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I would plant it more in a shady condition.
So, the Texas one can go sun or shade, but this one, a little bit of shade to protect it.
Yeah, it prefers a little bit more protection from that hot sun.
Okay, so a nice shrubby Bauhinia with white flowers in the late summer and fall. I like that a lot. Now, behind us over here, we have one that's called the Chihuahuan orchid tree. It's another Bauhinia. And I love the big foliage on this one. It looks like cow hoof shapes, you know?
I like to think of it as like a clamshell. It seems to open and close. It's very similar to the Anacacho orchid tree in that it gets to be about 15 feet tall.
Okay.
Also, like the orchid tree, it has dark pink blooms instead of the white orchid-shaped blooms.
Right. Well, the bloom color on this one is really beautiful.
Yeah, it's something different you don't see everywhere.
No, and this one, again, in terms of its growing conditions, I'm assuming similar to the Mexican one, well-drained soil. This one looks like it would like a little shade too.
Yeah, it's actually native to the Chihuahuan Desert, so it can handle a little bit rougher conditions, and it's listed as being cold hardy down to about 15 degrees. We've had some in pots that we've never covered, so.
Okay, which is a pretty good thing. If it's in a container and it's never been covered and it's still thriving.
Here in Austin, yes.
Right, that's pretty good news.
A good indicator.
So people should be on the lookout for these, especially this Chihuahuan. I love that color, and to have something blooming like that at this time of year is really cool. So I love that. Now the Huisache is one that several of the crew got introduced to in a rude way as we were unloading because of the thorns. It can be a thorny plant, but it's tough as nails, right?
That's correct. Actually, Huisache comes from the Aztec word for many thorns, but you'll love it in early spring when it's covered in these puffball, yellow, fragrant puffball blooms. It does bloom it can bloom as early as late July or January, so you have to kind of be careful that it might get nipped by a frost.
Okay, but and fragrant is the word. These are it's a delicious fragrance, I think.
It is. Actually, it's been used to make perfume.
Okay. Well, a tough, hardy xeric plant filled with thorns. At least the thorns should deter some deer, I would hope.
It's actually not deer resistant.
So they work their lips around the thorns.
Right. And generally, acacias are found in dry, rocky, limestone soils, but acacia can actually handle that sandy loam and heavy clay.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we also have a Palo Verde or Jerusalem thorn, another fantastic plant. This is a cultivar called Desert Museum.
Right.
These are showy for a long period of time.
Right. So one of the great features of this is it is a hybrid thornless Palo Verde. Its distinctive features are its green bark and twigs. In the spring, it gets these little yellow blooms that are great for butterflies and bees.
Right.
And like this version, the seeds are actually sterile, so you don't have to worry about it reseeding in your yard.
So people should be on the lookout for the Desert Museum variety
Right.
of the Palo Verde. That's a great tip. Sounds like it's got significant improvements over the native plant. That's really cool. But I love the plant and the graceful way that it moves with the wind nicely. It's just a really lovely plant. So similar in many ways is the gold ball tree. This one has broader foliage and really distinctive blooms.
Yes, hence the name Golden Ball Lead Tree. It does have those powder puff circular blooms that blooms in the spring to early summer, especially after a rain.
Right.
It gets to be about 12 to 15 feet tall, generally multi-trunked. It's found in Texas on dry, rocky slopes.
So think about dry, rocky slopes. This probably can handle the Texas summer pretty well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So again, well-drained soil, full sun kind of plant, terrific for many different garden settings. Now, completely different now. We're going to move to shade, right?
Okay.
We're going to talk about the buckeyes. The one in the foreground over here is the red buckeye, and I have to congratulate you to this time of year in the fall to have leaves still on a red buckeye because typically they shed them by summertime, right?
Yep, that is a distinctive feature of the red buckeye. It has survived our hot summer, but it does tend to drop its leaves at the end of summer.
Right. Well, and beautiful flowers in the springtime, incredibly showy.
Right, it gets these red tubular blooms that are found in early spring and are a good nectar source for hummingbirds and bees, and actually the squirrels really enjoy its nuts.
Okay, well, it's a beautiful plant, distinctive, very much the buckeye-shaped leaf.
Yes.
Behind it, we have the Mexican buckeye, which is not a true buckeye, but it has really beautiful pink blooms in the spring.
Right. It can get to be about 20 feet tall, generally a multi-trunk shrub. It gets yellow leaves in the fall.
Right. Yeah, it's a very dependable fall color plant, I think.
Right. Not deer resistant. But speaking of yellow, there is a yellow version of the red buckeye I meant to mention.
Oh, cool.
That's found only in a specific area of the Edwards Plateau. And where the
Okay.
two meet, they hybridize and form a pink and yellow version.
Oh, that's cool. The plants are known to kind of mix and match on their own. Yeah.
Yes.
But the Mexican buckeye is a surefire plant for those. I like to plant it around the perimeter of bigger trees. Seems to do really well there.
Yeah, it has great dense foliage, so it can be good for screening.
Yeah, I like the plant very, very much. Well, Crystal, you also brought along a Texas smoke tree, and this is one you don't see very often in the wild. It's a lovely plant, though.
Yeah, it is kind of uncommon, but it is found in the hill country. It's named for its purplish red flower clusters in the early spring that make it have that smoky look.
It looks like little puffs of smoke are coming up, but they're static and they don't move, right?
And
Yeah.
the new leaf growth is pink that eventually turns to that blue-green, and then in the fall it becomes bright red and yellow.
It's, I think, one of the best colors that you can get in the fall. And growing in the Texas Hill Country, we know it's a good, tough xeric plant. Would you grow it in sun or shade?
I would say sun part shade. You typically find it in the hill country growing protected by cedar trees.
So it's one of those that, can take the morning sun or afternoon sun, but not both.
Right.
Okay, so and it gives people, I think, a pretty good idea. Now, even though all these plants that you've brought along are Texas natives, they really do need to be taken care of in the first, especially during the first summer. And that means a good deep watering every week, right?
Right. I would recommend really, really watering in the plant when you first plant it, and then kind of monitoring it and making sure it's well watered through that period of getting established. And then it's a good idea to kind of water it at the edge of the canopy line to encourage those roots to grow out.
Now, we also have behind you a Canby oak. And real briefly, tell me about this one. This is, I haven't seen one in 20 years.
Well, it's a great oak tree for smaller residential yards. It only gets to be about 30 feet tall. It is fast growing. It's considered evergreen, but like other oaks, it drops its leaves in late winter before the new
New
leaves
foliage.
comes out.
It's got that classic red oak shaped leaf, but it's small and lustrous, which I'm assuming means that it can handle drought pretty well.
It is. It's it's heat and drought tolerant.
Yeah, well, I think it's an interesting addition to the oaks in our area. I know it's native to Mexico, not Texas, but people have been experimenting with it for a while. And there might be some older specimens around town. For it was briefly available like 20 or so years ago, but it's good to see it back on the Texas market.
Yeah, I think it's a great option.
Yeah. Well, Crystal, I appreciate you being our guest today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to share the many different cool plants that you brought along with you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And coming up next, we're going to be moving on with our program in Daphne.